In this video, we're going to take a look at 5 reasons why I like running the pistol, 3 reasons that I would maybe want to get out of the pistol, and then as a bonus at the end, I'm going to tell you how we evolved our offense using the pistol this past season. Let's dive in. So the first great thing about running the pistol is you get as close to under center timing in the run game as you can without having to be under center. So it's not going to hit exactly the same way and exactly as crisp as runs will if we can get them from under center, but we don't have to have the under center snap with our quarterback. We don't have to practice that exchange for the quarterback. It's basically the same as if he were in the gun, except the different handoff types that we'll talk about soon. Those are generally going to be better in the pistol than if you're in the sidecar in the gun. Not quite as good as under center, but you can get about 90-95% of the way there without having to teach the quarterback anything different as far as getting under center for the snap. Same with the center, we don't have to teach him that exchange. It's one less thing we have to teach if we don't have an under center package, because we feel like we can get almost all of that, all the benefits of being under center from the pistol. The next thing I like about the pistol is handoff diversity, the different ways that we can actually hand the ball off to our running back. And this is opposed to being in the gun. Say we've got our halfback sidecar right here. There's really a couple things that you can do. Most of it obviously going to be crossing face. You can go same side. The new one recently that I've written a couple of articles on is top, where the running back goes behind the quarterback. And if you count it as a handoff, you can also toss it out to the running back as well, maybe on a crack toss, pin and pull type of run. But when we are in the pistol, there's a few different things that we can do. So kind of the equivalent of the crossing face would just be a regular zone handoff. Running back is taking his landmark, quarterback's going to hand it off and boot out of it. Now, I would prefer this. Obviously, this is kind of the only way that you could truly run outside zone, base outside zone. And then this is how I would prefer to run inside zone from the pistol as well, just because inside zone in an outside zone offense is a constraint. When the defense starts overflowing to see this action, now the running back starts taking a better angle to be able to cut behind that overflow. So this is really what I consider a zone handoff. Now, as opposed to a gap scheme handoff, what I really like, especially because counter is going to be, in my offense, the main gap scheme complement to outside zone, is what's in the Shanahan-McVay system called stab. And it's kind of a reverse pivot with a counter step. So we just ran outside zone to the right, generally want to run counter away from that. So we're going to open up the quarterback to the right. Running back's also going to step to the right. So if we're just looking at first steps and the linebackers are not reading the offensive line, they're getting their eyes in the backfield, this first step is going to look like outside zone, but then we go stab, running back's going to cut back underneath the quarterback, and the quarterback's going to hand the ball off this way and give a boot fake, hopefully to hold the defensive end or keep those eyes on him. And if we're running GT counter, we've got extra lead blockers for the running back. Now, if we want to get the quarterback involved in the read game, or how I would hand off on duo, what we do, we call it kind of a midline handoff. Quarterback's going to step off the midline, so that would be his left step. This would be his right step. And what this is going to allow the running back to do is take really one plant step, and it's full steam ahead right into the A gap. And then we're going to follow our lead blockers out from there if a counter or power or duo is going to hit off tackle instead of inside. But whether it's duo, maybe it's power read, maybe we're reading this defensive end, maybe it's read option, maybe it's an RPO, and maybe we've got a bubble out here on the perimeter. This is going to open up a quarterback to a read while still getting the running back downhill as opposed to more side to side that he would be in the gun. Now, that doesn't just have to be if the play is on the right. We can still step off the midline to the left, and maybe we're running as inside zone read that's going back to the left, or a counter to the left. Maybe we're reading the backside defensive end on counter, and the quarterback can pull it and run if the end's going to squeeze down. So it's not going to necessarily give away which way the play is being run to based on which way the quarterback opens, and that's going to contribute to the illusion of complexity that I love in the Shanahan-McVay offense. And the third thing that I really like is just the downhill running angles for the halfback. So say we're just going to run a counter to the right here, and the running back is offset. He's going to hit this C gap probably. It's really hard to hit counter from the A gap from the opposite side in the gun to begin with, which is why I like same side gap runs if we're going to be in the gun. But if we are crossing face, he's going to have to get the handoff, cross his face, plant a foot, and get vertical on what's generally considered an inside to off tackle run. Now, I know we plant our foot in the ground to get vertical on outside zone, but that's more of an off tackle to perimeter point of attack as opposed to inside to off tackle. And I mentioned it especially with kind of the read footwork, the midline footwork. We're taking one step and getting straight downhill from the pistol. So now we can attack this A gap and bend it off tackle if we need to on a counter or a power, but it's a lot easier to work inside out at that point because the running back is starting inside. His initial track is inside as opposed to working outside and kind of having to go outside in if we're in sidecar. And it does help even with outside zone. So go back to draw the halfback over here. If we're just going to draw these lines to the same spot, which is kind of that off tackle C gap area that we really want to be making that fifth step cut, the angle is still significantly more downhill coming from the pistol. So even the angle of this cut is not going to be as sharp because we are already coming downhill. It's going to be easier to maintain that top speed through the line of scrimmage because we don't have to change as much of our direction because we're already coming downhill. All right, the fourth reason that I like the pistol is I think that it slows defenses down. And there are a few reasons that I think this. Number one, and the reason that you'll probably hear from most coaches why we like the pistol is there's no tendencies, right? A lot of us can get into some tendencies based on which side of the quarterback the running back's on. We're going to run certain plays this way. We're going to run certain plays back the other way. Most of the time, the run's going to the other side, so that'll change how defense is fitted up. But if we're in the pistol, then the defense has at least one more layer that they have to look at, which is the formation as a whole versus just which side of the quarterback is the running back on. Now, personally, I'm not scared of tendencies. I do think that it's kind of hard to get a defense to overplay something and set up a shot play off of it if we don't have a high tendency of doing something to get them to overplay. But we can still force defenses to play slower if they don't know really where the point of attack is going to be because there's no tendency to follow and break. It also correlates with kind of the ways that defenses have adapted to stop the read game, whether it's read option or RPOs. They will generally, if we're in sidecar, lots of defenses will sling their run fits. So if we're in sidecar, then we say we've got twin receivers out here and they want to play too high, this would be the person we would want to read for slants, hitches, some kind of RPO on the backside. So they would just take him totally out of the run fit. Instead, they can fit the run this way, and they still have all the gaps accounted for, and they know that because the running back is in sidecar. The Sam knows that he's the apex defender opposite the running back, so he's going to fit if we get any kind of mesh across the quarterback's face. He's going to attack the edge quickly. Now, it's not to say the defense can't fit the run based on side of the running back from the pistol. What defenses have really started doing from the pistol is going based on which way the quarterback opens. So let's say we're going to run an inside zone read to the right. What they will coach the outside linebackers to do is if you get the quarterback's back, then you are in the run fit. Why does that make sense? Because if the quarterback is looking this way, he cannot possibly be reading you. So they would fit the run the same way here as if the running back was offset to the left because the quarterback's back turns this way. We can't read on this side. So presumably he would be the read man if there is one, and now the defense still has 6 hats for 6 gaps. But how that equates to slowing a defense down is they still have to wait till after the snap to figure it out. That's a quarter of a second of hesitation. That's going to be just a little bit longer that the Sam is not in the fit. So we're hitting the run downhill, faster, full speed at the line of scrimmage. The defense has to take just a hair longer to fit the run, and that can equate to at least some addition to our average yards per rush from the pistol. Now, the last reason that I like the pistol is the play action game. You can definitely, fake an outside zone and turn and boot away from it. Going to be way more effective in the pistol than if we were in sidecar. But I think that even just a token flash fake with a regular drop back pass protection is a whole lot more effective. Running back just takes his one step and steps up into his gap. Quarterback just take his midline step and drop back and just kind of stick the ball out there. Even if the line's not being super aggressive and they're just taking their regular pass pro angles, I think that's a lot more effective than just having the running back come across and step up into his gap. Now, the pistol's not perfect, or else everybody would run it all the time. So some of the limitations that the pistol is going to give us is, first off, it's going to limit our quarterback's ability for post-snap reads to half the field. So I mentioned it when we were going through kind of how the defenses have started adapting to fit the run. If the quarterback is turning this way, he can only read something back here. Now, it might be a defensive end for a zone read, might be an outside linebacker or safety for an RPO, but there is zero chance for a post-snap read to the other side of the field. Now, let's say we're in the gun and we're just going to do a regular cross-face type of run. The quarterback is facing forward. So theoretically, post-snap, he could be reading a defensive end back here, defensive end on this side, some safety or outside linebacker again. From the gun, there are a lot more options for how to or who to read on a defense post-snap from the gun because the quarterback is going to be facing forward for the entire handoff. The next limitation that I've had when it comes to running the pistol is I feel like it can be a little bit more difficult to get the quarterback involved in the run game. And there are a few different facets of the run game that make it harder. And it kind of starts with how I like to block up and read gap scheme runs. So let's say we're going to run power read to the right. A lot of teams with a head up 4 right here will really just base block this tackle on the defensive end. Now, I don't like that kind of block in a gap scheme run because I feel like it really gives this end a two-way go. And that's also going to make it really tough to read an outside linebacker if you actually want to read it. I think it'd be way too easy for an outside linebacker to just kind of stay out here and then the defensive end kind of push the tackle and fall back in and really can kill the play just based on angles, even though we might have a hat for a hat. So how I like to block the front side of gap scheme runs against odd fronts is I want to take the play side tackle out to the outside linebacker and read this defensive end. I think it also makes this combo a little bit easier because we don't have to worry about the guard getting blocked into from the end, and just say power read, we would wrap here and hinge out the backside 4. Now on paper this looks good, but we have had issues just because the end with how tight he is, maybe he's a 4-eye, maybe he's even a little bit tighter than this. He can kind of come straight at the mesh point and really take either the quarterback or the halfback. Looking at another play with it, maybe we're going to run inside zone to the left and we would block it up and arc the backside tackle, reading this defensive end, have a slot receiver block the will here. But it's the same issue here for this defensive end. If he's decently quick at all, he can kind of just take off and his path is really going to lead him to both places. By the time the quarterback's actually making his read, the defensive end is kind of in a position where he could take either whoever comes out with the ball after the mesh. Now, I know that it's definitely possible because this is simply a midline read, and midline has been run forever as part of the triple option offense, but it can still be a little bit more difficult of an angle as opposed to maybe it's an even front and he's out here in a 5 and now he's got to come a little bit flatter to get to the mesh point. That's going to make it a little bit harder, especially if the running back is really busting it getting downhill. But from this tighter angle, the end can kind of expect the running back and then fall out to a quarterback if the quarterback gets a pull read. So another issue getting the quarterback involved in the run game is that for my money, GT counter bash is the best quarterback run play that there is, especially when paired with outside zone. So normally we're going to run outside zone across face from the quarterback. We can present that exact same look. We can read the exact same defender and get the quarterback running back to the other side on a GT bash play. Now, it is a deadly combination when used with each other, but it's not very easy to get through or very convincing to get through from the pistol. Now, what I consider would be the best way to get the quarterback running the counter if we want to read this backside defensive end would be faking a toss to the running back. But if we don't toss our outside zones from the pistol normally, it's not going to be as convincing. The other thing we could do would be fake an outside zone, block that defensive end, and not have any kind of read with it. Just get everybody else just running regular counter, fake this, and then kind of loop back around with the quarterback. But it's not going to hit as quickly. It's not going to get the defense overflowing exactly the same way that a true bash read GT counter will. And kind of in that same vein, you're not getting any designed runs for the quarterback from the pistol that you're actually reading. Now, we can design for sure anything, but if we're looking at total read option game, which is what I really love in the run game, it's a lot harder to get the quarterback involved in it. You know, even power read that we were talking about earlier, The running back is the one running power. The quarterback is the outside constraint in case the defensive end pinches. So he's not the one from the pistol in normal read option schemes that is going to actually have the offensive line blocking for him. So in my opinion, that does make it a little bit harder to get him involved. The other popular run scheme from the pistol is running an inside zone read. So the running back is going to kind of step up away from the play and cross the quarterback's face this way. Now, it obviously has to be inside zone. This wouldn't work for outside zone. The offensive line would be way gone by the time the running back gets to the point of attack. But this has two issues for me. Number one, like I said earlier, inside zone in an outside zone offense is a constraint play. So from the pistol running inside zone read, if the running back's going this way, the defenders aren't just going to start overflowing the other way because they can tell based on what's happening in the backfield that it's not outside zone. So the defense is going to fit the run differently, and even though we are reading somebody on the backside, the quarterback is still not the person that is getting the primary blocking scheme for. We could have a fullback out here that's going to go lead block for the quarterback out there, but he is not running behind the main blocking surface in a zone read from the pistol. So like I said, you can do some different things, maybe pick up that end with the running back, just give a little fake and go with the quarterback. But it's going to be totally designed runs of the quarterback as opposed to getting him the ball in a read option. Whereas from the gun, like I said, we could run GT bash, or if you're running power read from crossing face, it's going to be the quarterback that's running power and reading this defensive end. It's also more difficult if we go back to reading that 4 or 4-eye. He cannot now take both of these players. He's going to have to either get out for the sweep or stay in for the quarterback. But because the angles are different, the way that the running back is attacking the mesh point, unless this is Aaron Donald or Myles Garrett, he's just not going to be able to take two players as one player in the read. Now, the last issue that the pistol can present is it does make six-man pass pro much more difficult than if the running back was in sidecar. So normally on the running back side in pass pro, he's just going to pick up the inside linebacker or outside linebacker. Line's going to slide away and will man the tackle here, and he's just looking inside out, the running back, whoever comes, if either of them come. Now, that can still happen from the pistol. However, he has to step out and then up, as opposed to just stepping up if he were in the gun. So it can take the running back a little bit longer to get there. We have to make sure that their feet don't get tied together, the quarterback dropping back and the running back going forward. There's only 2.5 yards of space between the quarterback's heels and the running back's toes in the pistol, as opposed to 8 if we're under center, or not even at all if we're in sidecar. It's also going to limit how quickly a running back can step up and pick up a blitzer, if he's even able to see the blitzers pre-snap. Because of, again, how close the quarterback and the running back are going to be here, he might not see very well from A gap to A gap because the quarterback's in his way. Under center, there's a lot more space there, so the quarterback's not really in his way. But here, the running back might just not see the A gaps pre-snap. So he's stepping out here, realizes that he's got a free blitzer in the A gap that he needs to pick up. That can sometimes take too long, and the quarterback's on the ground. So lots of pros and cons here with the pistol. I really think that the pistol is kind of a jack of all trades, but a master of none. And what I mean by that is I feel like that the pistol is not necessarily the best way to do anything. I think that run game, play action game is going to be better from under center. I think that read option game, pass protection is going to be easier from the gun. But what the pistol allows for us to do is present the possibility of any of those things happening before the ball is snapped. I think the pistol can be very beneficial if you want to do some under center type things, but you have some issues with the under center exchange because it keeps the snap consistent for the center and the quarterback. So in my first year as offensive coordinator, I installed the pistol in week 4. Now, when I first installed my offense, the pistol really wasn't going to be a part of it. If I wanted to read, we would be in the gun. If I just wanted to, run the ball or quick game or play action, it would be from under center. But we had issues from the snap under center, and we just couldn't get it right before the season, before it really started counting. So we started out in the gun, and then I realized that our running back was really good at getting downhill, hitting the line of scrimmage at full speed and bursting through the hole, and that was really going to lend itself towards the pistol. So we have a couple games where we're exclusively in the gun, and I was really fishing for some of the under center run game that I had, particularly duo. Now from the pistol, we can get in 2-back and put the fullback on one side, and he can go be the kick out on duo. Now duo is still possible to run from the gun, but you kind of need one of two things. Either you need kind of an unbalanced or overload bunch type of surface to have enough people blocking down to where that edge fitter is going to be the corner, and then we can run it same side so we can work inside out from there, or you need a sniffer to kick out the defensive end. And I'm not a huge fan of the sniffer for a few reasons. I don't think he is a vertical threat because he's tucked in the line of scrimmage. He's not a vertical threat pre-snap for the defense. He's also pre-snap without motion, not a threat to get a handoff. And I want my skill players to kind of be in one of those two positions. Either there's a possibility that they could be taking this handoff, or there's a possibility that you need to cover him deep. So in my offense, we don't have sniffer formations. So without sniffer formations from the gun, kind of the only way that we could run duo from the gun would be that overload surface. And I didn't want to just be able to run duo from one formation, meaning tight bunch. So in week 4, we installed the pistol primarily to run duo. We had some RPOs with it. We got the fullback in strong or weak, just like he would be from under center. And we could run duo that way. We could run it out of 21 personnel, to a tight end. We could run it weak. We could run it with twins out there to RPO, really expanded how we were able to run duo. Then the following week, we really bust through with power read. Our running back was really good at getting downhill, so much better to run power read to him from the pistol than trying to make him a sweep player from the gun. By the end of the season, we were kind of at a place where if we were facing an even front team, then I would plan to be in the pistol knowing that our read was going to be a 5 technique or wider. If we were going to face an odd front team, then we would plan to be in the gun because that defensive end, we wanted to read the 4-4-eye tight defensive end. Now moving forward into next season kind of brings up a bonus negative that can possibly be for the pistol. And that's, how do you tell in a play call where the running back's going to line up? Do you have to tag the formation? We're going to run gun trips right, or pistol trips right, under center trips right, or is it maybe based on a play call in which sense you can really get locked into tendencies where we only run certain plays out of the pistol, we only run certain plays out of the gun, and that's definitely a place that I don't want to be. So moving forward with the pistol, I think it's going to be a really good way to, again, make sure my running back's getting downhill, but also be able to add some read components to the under center run game that I had planned on when I installed this offense the first time. Now we'll talk about the pros of under center in another video, so make sure you subscribe if you don't want to miss that. And if you enjoyed this video, click on the screen, and I think you'll like the next one too.